think that's sort of where you heard Secretary Clinton there mentioning the Trump administration putting children into detention camps. This is certainly not an issue that should fit a party orthodoxy, in large part because of what our next guest is reporting for The Bulwark, taking us inside one of these detention centers, detailing how the case of 5-year-old Liam Ramos was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Dilley Immigration Processing Center in Texas. Liam's story last month became a national symbol of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown after he and his dad were detained in their Minnesota driveway. In late January, after being held at the Texas facility, a federal judge ordered their release. Now, The Bulwark's Adrian Carrasquillo is shining a light on several more disturbing stories emerging from Dilley. Adrian joins us now. He's the national immigration correspondent for The Bulwark. Adrian, I'm so glad that you were able to get this reporting out there, because I've heard from sources similar stories of just how dire the circumstances are for these families and these people being held in Dilley. It's just one of the examples of these kinds of centers around the country. So talk to us about what your sources told you and what it looks like inside Dilley.
Yeah, these are centers where children are only supposed to be in detention for 20 days maximum, right, according to a settlement from the 1990s. And you have children who've been in there for months. Families, one former employee told me that he knew someone who had been there with her 11-year-old daughter for 130 days. And, so she didn't want to eat. There's been issues with the food. There's been issues with the water. There's been issues with kids not getting fruit in their diets. And so a lot of these children are sad and depressed. And there's also issues with them not getting the proper medication that was prescribed to them. I wrote about a woman, Mariela Sobrero, who had 2 lumps in her breast, and she was supposed to get a biopsy to conclusively find out if she has breast cancer. And she was taken at her court date before she was able to do that biopsy. She was in Dilley with 3 of her children and her husband. We wrote this story on Friday. We reached out to DHS asking them, why is this woman not getting the medication that she was prescribed? And asking them, are they going to release them? They actually made the decision to release them a few hours after our story published. She was released yesterday. She's back with her family. But, there's a lot of trauma there. And this is just one case and 3 children who were released, but so many more children who are still in there.
Yeah, I was so struck in your story, the way that you say you reached out to the DHS spokeswoman, Tricia McLaughlin, with the specifics of the lacking medical attention for Mariela. And she says to you, that doesn't sound right, but we'll run this down. And so it does sound like there's maybe some attempt to be responsive to these cases as they come up. But it does raise the larger question of, do they not know what's going on in these detention centers, especially when you consider the fact that you're talking to former employees who are just talking about how dire it is inside for kids who are getting sick, for families who aren't getting their medical attention. I mean, this is basic stuff.
There's a lawsuit for an 18-month-old child who it's a recent lawsuit over the last week, an 18-month-old child who had respiratory failure and was not given their daily prescribed medication when they get back. And what I heard from Mariela's family was that, if the nurse is there, they get medication. And if the nurse is not, they don't. And the former employee told me they're getting Tylenol, they're getting Advil for people who have serious medical issues. And I think what it underscores is during the first term, we saw that family separation, really sort of horrified the nation. And so the Trump administration appears to have responded by saying, okay, well, we'll detain these families together. What we've seen is the face of mass deportation now is not these criminals, these violent, hardened criminals that we were promised, but it is children and families and parents being taken from communities who have roots in these communities. These people were living in Round Rock, Texas for 2 years. There's people who've lived for years. There's people who have humanitarian parole, others who are married to U.S. citizens. There's pregnant women giving birth to newborn babies inside this facility. And a lot of people, spurred by Liam Ramos bringing some light to this darkness, are saying, what is going on in these facilities? And now we're seeing it. And a lot of people, as you said, the polling supports, Americans are not happy with what they're seeing.
Yeah, they feel it's an overreach. And I think it's important to note ICE didn't respond to your questions about operations inside Dilley. But you mentioned this, speaking to a former Dilley employee, of course, on condition of anonymity, who also served in the U.S. Armed Forces, about what they witnessed inside the facility. And here's part of what you write. You write, quote, I asked the former employee to say a few words about how they've been doing since they left the job. They said seeing how things are on the inside has forever changed them. This isn't what I fought for while in the military, this person told you. I have PTSD as it is. Now adding this, I can barely sleep thinking about those families, they told you. And I think that person also said something else when I was reading your story, this idea of people complaining about immigrants coming to this country, quote, the wrong way. But in some of these instances, these are people who were picked up doing the right way of coming by going to their immigration meetings and meeting the judges at the times that they were supposed to. It doesn't seem to matter.
I don't know if you've seen these memes, Allie, where they're like, we're getting these people, they don't pay taxes. Oh, wait, we're using their tax records to get them. These people are criminals. Oh, wait, we're picking them up at court, or at their job site. So I think that, again, what we have seen is what the true face of mass deportation, what it means when you actually have to do this. And I mean, the person that I spoke to is that former employee who's in the military. They said if they knew what this was like, what the government machinations were like inside, they never would have served. And I think we really need to think about what that means for people who love this country and who are saying what is happening now under the watch of this administration is wrong.
This new piece is really important. It's available online now. I think everyone should read it. National immigration correspondent for The Bulwark, Adrian Carrasquillo. Great reporting. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Thanks, Allie.
John Meachin, I feel like the theme of this morning for us has been a conversation about American humanity and the lack of humanity being shown in this deportation agenda, which, again, if we look at the nuanced conversation that we could be having in a policy space, the right way of going after what the administration promised on their way into office, criminals who have come to this country illegally, fine. I think that's what many in the American public would say they voted for. But when you look at this, it's why we call it an overreach, because people are looking at what's happening in Dilley, in other centers, and saying, this is not what we voted for, and this doesn't speak to the humanity that we want to bring to the table as Americans.
It doesn't. And where we find ourselves on this President's Day is so many Americans feel disempowered, if you will, from being able to affect what's unfolding in the life of the country. I hear this all the time. I'm sure you all do. It's like, well, what can we do? Well, there's two questions. How can they do this? They being the administration and enablers in Congress and other places. And what can we do? And as an answer is that it's thrilling and terrifying that it's thrilling that it is up to us. And it's terrifying because it's like, oh, God, it's up to us. We can change this. It just requires a persistent kind of citizenship and a willingness sometimes to vote in a way that you might not have traditionally voted.
And isn't it true that, and we're on President's Day, that we generally judge presidents, the average person, based on what that presidency meant to me in whatever particular place I fit in the social order. So you would, if you are someone that has experienced homelessness, would see presidents one way. If you're someone that have been a victim of gender bias or LGBTQ homophobia or racism, you see it another way. And I think that we see our presidents and we see the conditions that we are looking at now with deportation and how people are being held from the prisms of our life experience. And I think that's what, Ali, we need to think about on President's Day.
Yeah, certainly all of this part of our conversation on a President's Day where we look back, but also look back to inform what's presently happening.